my God. We're editing this like 7-part documentary series for next month. I have so much B-roll of people pretending to have sex on my hard drive right now. My wife is going to open up a folder and it's going to be an awkward conversation about it. Okay, I mean, there's so much to talk about with Wild Hunt and the expansions. First of all, though, I want to talk about, I mean, it's an open world game. You never made an open world game before. You've made really big games, but making an open world is a whole different kettle of ballparks. Bartek, what was that like? What was the process of like just straight from the start, open world? How do we do this?
I remember my first impression. It was something like, the world is so huge, we won't leave company for next 5 years.
Right.
To fill it up with stuff.
The world map had like been made, and then you were responsible for like, all right, how do we put stuff in, right?
Exactly. So first of all, we decided to prepare something like a major test. So we took one of the Skellig Islands, Art Skellig, create a map, then put horizontal and vertical lines on it, and then we create a special QA unit to test the game, and they will keep playing and checking for which period of time we can catch focus for the player who is riding from point A to point B.
Okay.
And it appeared that it's 27 seconds. So we have our internal 27 seconds rule.
Right.
And we decided to every 27 seconds put something like a wandering merchant or some kind of question mark to lure the player to do different stuff than amazing quests, because this is an open world game, so we have different activities. And yes, it was pretty intense, and we had some problems because creating such huge open world requires a lot of work between different departments, like open world team, quest team, and environmental team. Do you remember Pavel's situation with starvation in Velen? And
oh, yeah, of course, because normally it works like that there's like lots of people involved, right? Like some people build art, some people do the concept art, some people do the quests, and others populate the world, right?
So the whole concept of Velen was that people are there is starvation, the hunger in whole area. So the quests support the story, and our chats in the community support the story, but environmental guys created wonderful villages with wonderful houses full of sausages hanging around.
Right.
So you had chats or dialogues like, "I'm so fucking hungry," and then in the back you see the sausages hanging around and black pudding. Also,
and as he's taking a
right.
The other thing, you had the dialogue in the village, and then somebody is whining about the hunger, and then in the background you see the pack of deers.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I also read in Jason Schreier has a book coming out, and there's a chapter on The Witcher, and he said that even in the closets, like inventory, there was just like cheese wheels and like all these like delicious and like beautiful apples and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
it was the fault of our loot system that was sometimes doing this, so we had to cover that, because basically you were entering the village outside of this the sausages on physics, because we wanted to showcase that. Outside of that, there were also like ham sandwiches. Like all the villages, they always had it, you know. So
ham sandwiches.
Yeah, sandwiches with the ham.
Or
like
chicken
that was.
Sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly. And other thing is that usually, like our villages, when I was like running around and playtesting stuff, we were reporting it to the gameplay guys. So at the end, it didn't stay like that. But throughout the production of Witcher 3, like every villager in their sack, in their house, they had an onion and a piece of a wire.
What?
Yeah, I mean, this.
Wine and eating.
Okay.
Somehow, you know, our loot system thought that it's proper, you know.
An onion and a piece of wire.
Yeah.
Were they like playing kickball or something?
To cut the onion, you know?
Oh, to cut the onion. Yeah. Genius.
Adventure games.
Exactly. You can see the experience, yeah.
So, this 27-second rule, right? What needed to be there for every 27 seconds? Not just like a full quest.
No.
Like anything.
It should be something connected to the open world content. So we have.
It could be a bunny rabbit.
No. It shouldn't be like that. Monster, yes. If it's
a monster.
A monster, yeah, monster or traveling merchant or some question mark on the map or stuff like that.
So let's talk about populating that world then, right? So you have your quest team. They're going to be making quests and whatnot, but talk a little bit about the stuff that's not like core quest. You mentioned the word communities. Communities is basically the people in the villages and stuff.
crowds in settlements. Yes, so we trying to achieve different atmosphere in different regions. So we have different type of dialogues and different type of characters in Velen, which is quite rustical part of the world, and different types of NPCs and different types of dialogues in Novigrad, and the same with the Skellige. And we're trying to achieve different atmosphere in all these regions with dialogues, with those small content. So Treasure Hunts touches different subjects in Velen than in Novigrad and like Skellige.
Right. Presumably that's a lot of dialogue to write then, Boris.
Loads. Well,
new accents as well.
Also, just, I mean, honestly, if I could have had my way, everybody in Skellige would have spoken Norwegian, and we would have had English subtitles. No, but we opted for Northern Irish for the Skelligers. The Velenese were primarily West Country. Vizima was theoretically the North's largest metropolis. We went for a mix of London accents. Yeah.
And we'll get into Blood and Wine in a little bit, but touch on that in terms of the accents, because that was a very interesting decision you guys made, because it's the Mediterranean, but it's not really a Mediterranean accent.
Yeah, Toussaint in general is sort of painted in the novels as a place that where Romance language names reign, but we were very sort of reticent about using German accents or French accents because they'd been done in parody to a ridiculous degree.
Right.
So we had to come up with an accent of our own, which was a light Danish, actually, because it was just about unvoicing terminal consonants and changing a few vowels. The reviewers thought they were wonky French accents, but they weren't. Yeah.
Let's talk about the business side a little bit as well, scaling up the business, because obviously you started The Witcher 1 with a very, very small, I mean, you started the original version with only 4 people, and then it expanded, and obviously 2 expanded as well. Talk about The Witcher 3 in terms of getting that big, because the cautionary tale is always the minute a studio gets big, it becomes too top-heavy, and then things start to go bad. Obviously, that didn't happen with Wild Hunt. So what was that process like, Martin?
I mean, so it was a biggest change was obviously from Witcher 2 to Witcher 3, but what is important, we were doing one thing at a time. So with Witcher 1, Atari was publishing, we are self-publishing in Eastern Europe, so Poland, Russia, and the smaller countries around. And actually, funnily enough, we were not able, as they were controlling the West, so they were deciding on the box, what comes in the box and everything. We were not able to convince them to add more stuff. So the Polish edition of the first Witcher was like a huge, like 3 or 4 DVD boxes. There was making of video, there was a game guide, there was a soundtrack, there was lots of stuff. So exactly as we wanted to make it, but Atari said like, no, sorry, the cost of goods are too high. So it was just one DVD box.
Right.
And only after, with the enhanced edition, we were able to convince them. So we learned that, I mean, it was a lot of frustration because we were doing this sort of distribution publishing business ourselves in our country and the neighboring countries for many years. So we knew what, gamers like. We wanted to deliver something from our hearts. And then we had a partner over there that said like, no, it's too expensive. So already for Witcher 2, we were deciding on that. And then we didn't have a problem to put out Witcher 2 Enhanced Edition. And then on Witcher 3, we decided to just run totally wild with it. Right. And of course, it was never like we just planned it from the very beginning that it will be so huge. And it never happens like this, at least in our case. It was step by step. So the first E3 we showed it, the response was just phenomenal. And then it sort of was making us more and more courageous. And,
right.
and we're adding more resources, we're investing more, but we're scaling the team and step by step, bit by bit. And then when we went to the market, we already knew that the game will be big. But again, all the sales and all the fans' response, and thanks to you guys, it has exceeded our wildest dreams.
Right. And presumably then, that's what sort. Is that team then working on the next project on Cyberpunk? Does that
Which project?
the cyber?
We're not
I think
supposed to
You're not
discuss. No?
Okay.
What's the agreement?
I
So-
tried. We'll get you out in a few years, maybe, and talk about
But
it.
yes. So it's way more an evolution than a revolution. As you see, like we all gain more and more experience. On my side, more business publishing guys on the development side, each of their professional categories. But it's all built using the experience and the knowledge we gained on what we have delivered so far and the response from you guys.
It's one of the incredible things about going out at the end of last month was talking to so many people who had been there for so long, because it's quite unique within video games, especially the scale of game that you're sort of creating. For the third game,
That's one more thing. I mean, like, let me wrap it up. I think that's why we value our independence so much, because we are the masters of our destiny. So the moment we'll release a bad game, this will probably start falling apart. But we'll, of course, do everything for it not to happen. But there's nobody telling us, hey guys, I think right now you have to do this game or that game, or scale it up or scale it down. These are our choices. So in our internal meetings, we talk about what we want to deliver to gamers and what we want to deliver as a game, and not the business aspects of things. And I think that's the core strength of our company.
Right.
And we've been fighting for that since The Witcher 1.
yeah. Pavo, big fan of the first game, got to work on the second game after applying to CD Projekt like 25 times. Third game, you've got a pretty important role on the team, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the third game, I was one of the seniors. I was taking care of a lot of main quests in the game, and then I became a lead on both expansions. Yeah.
So what was that experience like? What was it like getting like, okay, you know, the second game was pretty big. It basically had like kind of 2 stories happening in it, but now we're going to create this massive world, go fill it with stories and quests.
I mean, first thing that we always came up with is we work with our story team when they provide like an outline of a story. And this outline basically shows you what the game's gonna be about in like grand scheme of things. Like what are the biggest story arcs, you know? What are the biggest decisions and the most important things we want to talk about? And then the quest team gets this story, and then we separate it. We cut it into quests. We give it a technical number, basically a number that will be referring to this quest throughout the next few years.
Right.
And a lot of people like knows no numbers in the company. It's pretty funny sometimes. And then we develop full, really long scenarios for those games. And like, let's say the Baron story, right? The scenario that I wrote for it was like 60 pages long.
Wow.
Of the document, just describing basically what happens in what order and why. And it's of course like, you know, the quest team works on it, then he sends it out to the story team, and they put their own input. And then there's also cinematics team that they add their part, so just we make sure that everything looks good on the screen as well. And then on top of that, we have open world team, so that we make sure that everything is connected with the world actually. Right? So all the characters, they have lives. You know, if you leave the character and you come back to him or her, they are actually doing something meaningful or something that is actually connected in some way to their being, you know, to their personality and their role in the story.
So how do you go about like the process of actually like, I don't know, scheduling all that? Is it the type of thing where you're like, okay, we're going to work on Skellige now, we're going to work on Velen now, or is it just this process of everyone fixing parts and collaborating and filling in the gaps, kind of like a coloring book?
That's the part where we always ship games on time, yes?
Right.
Exactly.
Thank you, Dan.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, we operate in incredible chaos all the time. and this is...
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Well, thing is that you have a lot of creative people on the tasks all the time, and they develop parts of the story in the same time. So basically, you know, the character has some traits that he doesn't have at the end, and it cannot be like this, right? Has to be cohesive. So then, you know, you develop something and you have an amazing idea for like a character, right? Bartek was giving once this example of like Baron's story, right? Because we started from something slightly different, but then we transformed it and made it mostly about him, actually, because it was something that stand out, you know, the idea for the character and the way how he was connected to Ciri. So basically, we work on those parts and we just make sure we make our best it fits. But, you know, it pretty much never fits.
And my team is going after Quest team. We are trying to fit our part of the game to emphasize the story from the Quest. So it's like a cooperation all the time.
So that's where you get those inconsistencies like the food, is that everything's not like planned. It's just things that are wrong sort of end up standing out while you start to fill it all in.
Sometimes communication is broken, sometimes, but sometimes.
Yeah, and I also wanted to highlight like the impact that our testers now QA have on that, right? Because they play the stuff, they basically suggest a lot of things, and we always take it into consideration. And I remember one story that that I like a lot, actually. So at the very beginning of The Witcher, Witcher 3, the land that we started with was Skellige, right? So we basically prepare a male models. And, well, the guys on Skellige or bearded dudes, you know, with helmets and so on. Yeah. And then when I was implementing, like, a part of the story in Novigrad, when Geralt meets Rosa Varatre, she was this bearded dude in a helmet, you know, and Geralt was talking to her for most of the production, and I get a bug from a QA. It was a P5 priority, so like very, very low, like very unimportant priority. And the bug said, Rosa Varatre could be a bit more girlish.
How deep in development was that one found?
I mean, our QA is pretty good in this thing, so they spotted it right away, but, you know, they don't want to suggest things like that.
Right. I've heard that model is still being used as a template in other games as well, actually.
You know, yeah.
So, I mean, there's so much happening in this game. One of them, there's so many things that stand out about it, but one of it is the soundtrack is absolutely incredible. You got, a round of applause.
Oh, you guys.
So, on The Witcher 2, you worked on the sort of the sound team, but in more of a technical sort of role, it seems. On The Witcher 3, you were given the responsibility of working on the soundtrack. Tell us a little bit about the type of sound you went for, because it's incredibly unique, I think. Perhaps maybe more unique to people outside of Poland. It's like there's no game that sounds like, there's nothing that sounds like it.
I think that you guys might consider Witcher 3 soundtrack sort of, I don't know, how do you say that? Oriental, perhaps?
Exotic.
For some points, because we indeed are so grounded in our Slavic mythology regarding music as well. So what kind of scales would we use? What kind of instruments would we pick to actually try to recreate that impression of the sound? Because the bottom line, which I found actually the most amusing for me, is that no one knows how medieval Slavic music sounded like, because if you think about it, the Gutenberg machine, so the first printing presses, right, were like in 14th century perhaps, and immediately the church put their hands on it, right? So it was restricted for just mortal people, right? Because you had to print all those, you know, church stuff, and the old tradition of playing music just for fun, for amusement, was passed from the generation to generation, you know, orally, right? So what we did was actually to try to create an impression of doing music in a way that probably our forefathers would play it, in a way that our audience, you guys, would actually think this is believable enough, this is real enough for you guys, for the players to actually buy this stuff,
right?
Buy this conception, right? But it's not. It doesn't end here, because, you know, picking the instruments kind of sounds easy, because, okay, you just swipe, you know, Wikipedia, right, or whatever source you might have, and see, okay, what did I have in 14th century? Hurdy-gurdy. Okay, yeah, let's take it.
The hurdy-gurdy. I think we have a picture of the hurdy-gurdy, actually.
We have that? Yeah, that one.
Exactly.
Actually, that is a custom one, so you won't find any other piece of that tool in any part of the world, because normally hurdy-gurdy is like a half size of it, but this one has been built on a cello resonance box, so it's much bigger, it has more strings, and it sounds like a fucking devil screaming. So, so I'm very proud of having that particular instrument in our soundtrack, because that is actually what makes our music sound different. Because you have tons of games that use hurdy-gurdy, but none of the game uses that one. But still, you just pick the instruments and that's it. Okay, that everyone can do it, right? What was important for me as well was to work closely with those guys as well and try to implement music in a way that it becomes a natural part, natural ingredient of the world. We have some ups and downs, so I still remember you mentioned that sausage problem, right? So I had the similar problem with Velen actually, because it was like the early alpha build, and we were doing first attempts of implementing exploration music for free roaming, and we had some gaps. We didn't know what to do with them, so we figured out that we already placed this Bard group in Novigrad that are playing, upbeat Gwent music. So we're just gonna do the same thing in Velen, right? So the moment you have no idea how to deal with any location, we just took those musicians, put them, draw a trigger around them, play sound emitter so they can play music, and that kind of didn't fit actually, because the whole Velen thing was about the horrors of war, right? So your family members slaughtered, raped, taken away for army, and every 100 meters you have a bunch of people like so luckily we spotted that it doesn't make sense basically, so we got rid of the musicians from all of Velen, so Velen remains pure with that. But the other thing which was very important for me was working with the Quest guys and create some sort of line of connection that our work interacts with each other. So I think our crown achievement would be Blood and Wine thing, but we did the same thing with the Bloody Baron story arc, with Ladies of the Woods. But with Blood and Wine, we had this meeting with Oriana, Detlef, Regis, and Geralt, right? At her place. So, and for me, it always felt like a Mexican standoff kind of thing. So you are at the table talking with your vampire friends, and now that dude is approaching the table. That dude, he just tried to kill you 2 quests earlier. And that sequence lasts for like 15 minutes. It's 100% dialogue, so nothing happens, but it gave me this feeling of tense, like I would watch Quentin Tarantino movie.
Right.
So the moment I saw, and I actually spotted with Pavel that scene, I told him, okay, I'm gonna prepare something to fit this scene. Took me a couple of weeks, and I got back with that music. And I remember one of the guys actually implementing that quest from your team, telling me, okay, you know what? I've listened to that. I need another few weeks so I can make some changes. And my first reaction would be, okay, what I did wrong, right? So what's not working? So how can I iterate my stuff so it fits better? And he told me, no, your stuff is fine, just give me some time. So what had happened, he listened to the music and he did feel the same thing I felt, so he rebuilt the whole dialogue to make it longer, to make it more tense, so the music can, breathe into the scene and actually, take over the whole atmosphere.
Amazing.
So
it's an incredible anecdote that's sort of like, from the week and a half I spent out in Warsaw talking to a lot of the folks in the team, a lot of folks who aren't here as well, the sort of creative freedom and collaboration that you fostered on that team. We've loads more we could talk about. We're going to open up to QAs in just a couple of minutes. I've got a couple from the forums, first of all, so just get your minds thinking about what you'd like to ask, and we'll have Geralt and Jan, I believe, going to be walking around picking you guys out. But before we do that, we talked a bit about the DLC. I also want to talk a little bit about Gwent. Obviously, standalone game. A lot of people are playing it at the moment. It's sort of official release coming up as well. but the Gwent quest in The Witcher 3, was that always meant to be that long? That's like, how did that happen?
I mean, with the Gwent quest line, we tried to find something that would fit in the scale of the budget, let's say, like work hours we had, basically to pull it off. So we tried to propose something that would be the best to make the game, feel nice and so on. And there are people who really found the Gwent like minigame itself like amazing, and they bought into this. And I know that there are people who didn't really, right? It was not something for them. So we tried to make it in a way that you can, but you don't have to, right? So that was really our line of thoughts. And as always, we try to add a story to the whole thing, just to make it more interesting. And I think that actually ties up nicely with our Thronebreaker, right?
Right.
With the Gwent Thronebreaker, because this is our 15-hour campaign for the single player in our Gwent game.
All right, you put a card game in your RPG, and now you're putting an RPG in your card game.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
That felt logical when we did it. But there's one neat detail about it. So actually, currently, amount of dialogue that we have in the Thronebreaker is the same as we had in the Hearts of Stone. So it's actually a lot of story there.
There's as much story in the Gwent single-player campaign as there was in the expansion pack.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. And I mean, Blood and Wine as well. Like, I know I keep bringing it up, the C word. I'll try not to, but every game you've made, it's been like bigger and bigger, and the scale in The Witcher 3 didn't think it was going to be that big.
Stop it here, Danny.
Blood and Wine, then. That's like how long? 25 hours? Something?
I think it's more. It's taken me 40, but I was going really deep. But I mean, when we actually, it's funny because that's the first time we really planned and delivered real expansions, and we really were adamant about calling them expansions, like in the good old days when we were playing the Baldur's Gate, the Tales of the Sword Coasts, and like the Diablo expansions and whatnot. And wanted to see that this is not some small DLC. DLC was for free, and we're talking about it a lot. I think we got a lot of great feedback on that. And the way we planned the expansion, we said, okay, so the first one, Hearts of Stone, it's pretty much 10 hours. We had already a solid concept of the story guys had, so it was like, and pretty much that's what we delivered. I think the story was great. It was new. It was fresh. Again, very polished in a way, very appealing to us as well. But then the Blood and Wine was the second expansion that will happen after we deliver the first one. And the way we planned it was the first one was supposed to be 10 hours, and Blood and Wine, so the second one like maybe 15. The price of the expansion pass was $25. So roughly how we were counting it, we thought it would be fair to charge more or less $1 per hour, like give or take. And then sort of Blood and Wine happened, which was like almost like a standalone game. So yeah, we're not very good with planning.
Yeah.
The scope.
I keep talking to Witcher fans who are saying like, "Oh, I'll eventually complete Blood and Wine."
Yeah.
Like people who put 200 hours. Is there people here who are still trying to complete Blood and Wine? Yeah. Are people here still trying to complete The Witcher 3? Oh, yeah. All right.
Marcin also raised his hand.
Well, yes.
All right, I want to get to some questions before. There's two I'm going to pick here from the forums that came through. Reptile PZ asking, over these 10 years, what are your fondest memories related to working on the franchise? Do you have any big regrets or things you're especially proud of? Is there anything that stands out for each of you individually, something you worked on, an aspect of the game that you're particularly proud of?
I mean, for me, honestly, like I'm the most proud of the main storyline of the whole Witcher 3. Some quests that I worked on, but some of that my colleagues worked on. It was something that we put incredible amount of time on into it, just to make it right, just to make it feel good, have a good story and basically mean something, right? Because that was important for us, that this game is about something, and you can see actually there are thoughts of people behind it, and there's care and love behind this. So that's something that I really always try to put in there, and that was something that we tried to do also in Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine a lot.
Anything against stand out for the rest of you?
Regret. Geralt should have been able to romance whoever he wanted to.
Right.
Oh, Boris.
Whoa.
I mean, Priscilla and Anarietta included.
So,
Anna
Boris,
Henrietta is your best pal's girlfriend. You can't do those things.
No,
your friend.
You can't, but
Geralt can't. He has some.
Dude, bros before hoes, remember?
so this is a place where we don't agree with Boris. Really, he's up to romancing everything.
Right. You just like reading or writing that dialogue, presumably. All right, check out. I bet your private fanfic blog is real good. Another question here from Canny. Were there any last-minute changes prior to release that changed aspects of the plot in the series? Any stuff that got changed? I know like quests did change. Characters got cut as well, right? In each game. Anything stand out? You managed to get a fanfic into Hearts of Stone, actually.
Actually, the entire prologue to The Witcher 2, the fact that it was changed to a series of flashbacks intercut with the interrogation of Geralt by Vernon Roach, that was a very, very, very late date change.
Right. Why did it come about?
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, I think it was just about heightening interest. I think it was about
more. It was adding a lot of dynamics. I remember the discussion with Adam Badowski who came and said like, yeah, I had this crazy idea. We'll just cut it in pieces and we'll mix it up. And it really made perfect sense. I mean, it was way more dynamic and more intriguing and engaging for gamers.
Yeah, one additional story that came to my mind is that during Witcher 3 production, I was always in a Team Shani, actually, from Witcher 1. And I felt that she is missing in the game. And we tried to find a place for her. But, some characters are so important, and they're so big, and the role is like so tremendous in the story that you can't just shove them in some way. So you have to find a proper space for them. And Shani didn't fit in The Witcher 3, actually. So then when we start designing Hearts of Stone, like one of my things that I really wanted to do, get the Shani in, right? And I made her one of the important characters in the wedding quest, right? When Vitol's taking care of
It's a very
control.
personal story.
Cut away.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons why Shani is in Hearts of Stone so much, right? Because we wanted to bring the character that was there, and she was important for some of the players from Witcher 1, and she was not in Witcher 2, so we wanted to pick up on that.
Awesome. All right. Sorry, go on.
The scene on the lake.
Yeah. I remember our writers asking me, so Pavel, how do you imagine this sex on the boat actually to happen? Because I was trying to sell them some ideas, but they were not buying into it.
And Pavel was like, I have some sketches right here.
Awesome. All right, we've talked long enough. I want to open up some questions to everyone else who's out here. Geralt, I believe, is in the wings. Okay, and Yennefer's there as well. Perfect. Put your hands up. We're not going to queue people up. Put your hands up. Geralt, first of all, who would you like to pick? Okay, we got some people. This is good. Put your hands up if you want. He's not going to chop your head off, I swear.
Not before the question, for sure.
He's intimidating a lot of people. He's very intimidating. I saw a video of Geralt in China when it was like 120 degrees or something, and you were wearing all that.
And he's fluent in Chinese.
Right, it's amazing. I know, he's been translated into 15 languages or something. All right, first question. What's your name, sir, and what is your question?
My name is Brandon. So we talked a little bit about Shani being omitted from the first game and then bringing her into the third game. And I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on the creative decision to not bring Yorveth back in the third game.
That's an excellent question, actually. Thank you, sir. So, starting off with the Yorveth. Actually, from the middle of the production of Witcher 3, we planned to have Yorveth really there, right? And we found a spot for him. He was supposed to be a different character, transformed man, but then he didn't fit. He didn't fit in any fucking way we could try to do it. And believe me, I'm one of the guys who actually loves Yorveth. Right? So we really tried to actually put him to the game. And we actually had a storyline for him. The thing is that when it doesn't fit, you can really feel it. And we were like, okay, so either we deliver a lower quality game with a worse character that we want, or we just cut him from the game and just do the best of other characters that we can do. And that was really the creative decisions we took. That was really it.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what he would have done had he made it in?
No.
You're good. It's good.
Thank you very much. Geralt, look after him.
All right, Jennifer's picked somebody out over here. Can you tell us your name, first of all, and your question?
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Hey, Stephanie.
So my question is, in Witcher 3, through a dialogue choice, you find out the nature of Ciri's previous relationships. Will there be more representation of LGBTQ in future games?
Question.
Yeah. Of course. Naturally. No question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, yeah.
Are we getting into cyberpunk territory if we start asking more about that? I feel.
Hold your horses.
Come on, man. All right. Thank you so much for a question. Wonderful. Gentleman over here.
My name's Felipe. Two questions, if I may. First was for the soundtrack. It was fantastic. Thank you for that. I was wondering if there was going to be another chance to possibly get it on vinyl, since I slept on that and wasn't actually able to get on the first batch when it was released.
Who did your fulfillment for vinyl?
If there will be one more batch of vinyl.
Will there? Do you know?
We don't.
No, but I don't know if I can say it. Can I say it?
Yes. Oh, I think so. I think that was someone on the PR team. Yeah.
I didn't say it, but you guys, get the drift, right?
Keep your eyes peeled, maybe. Yeah.
Thank you. And
Awesome.
as well, since we were talking about Geralt being able to romance everyone,
Right.
and as well inclusion. Any possibility we might be able to get like a Geralt dating sim or something?
Geralt dating sim.
Just a fun idea.
Wonderful question, sir. Let's move on.
That's why you need to get the mod tools out again. Let the community make what they want. Lovely. Question over here, please. Tell us your name and your question.
Hi, my name is Abby. I wrote my question down so I wouldn't screw it up.
No worries.
How do you approach adventure game tropes and stereotypes like the Scottish dwarves and item fetch quests and adapt or embrace those from a writing perspective in order to keep the games from feeling like any other RPG?
Wonderful question. Who wants to take that one?
I guess Boris should start and then can pick
No, I
up
don't
on
want
that.
to. Somebody else start. I need to think about it.
I mean, okay, so first of all, it's a really good question, but the answer for it is like 100 hours. So I try to put it short. So first and foremost, we try to put a meaning into the game. And like whatever we design, and we just think, okay, what this thing is supposed to tell us, and what's the purpose of it, and how it serves the characters, and why it's there for, really, like what do we want to do. And for us, the important thing is the emotions and the feelings of our players, what they feel and what they think when those things happen on the screen. So this is like foremost thing that we consider when we think about the story. And then when you have a fetch quest, let's say Witcher 2 example, right? You had to undo the curse that was there on the battlefield. When you look structurally on those things, it is actually a fetch quest that you go, for different things, you just bring it, to one place and then you remove the curse. That's pretty much it. This is what happens on the structural level. However, when it comes to the story, all those things are actually really well grounded in all the lore, in all the dialogues, in all the characters, and they matter something, And this is one of the reasons why it actually doesn't feel shallow. So that's some answer for your question.
The only thing that I would add is that, existing tropes aren't bad by definition.
if nobody would wait for this game, I would still go and do 120, no matter what. So like, there's nothing that changes. And then when you put your stuff into the game, you want this thing to be good, because that's part of you. And this is the moment when it just starts to have meaning, you know? And you start feeling something. And then the player feels it.
Awesome. Great question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please, tell us your name and your question as well.
Hi, I'm Linnea, and I just wanted to ask, I'm a huge mythology geek, and I wanted to know, what is your favorite piece of lore, whether it be something like a plot line that you've incorporated from the books, or like some kind of creature, mythology, monster thing you've incorporated into the game?
That's great.
Wow, I mean,
let's go round on that.
I can start from myself. So the one that I really loved is the Birthlink. It shows up in the Baron storyline. There's the Botchlink and the Birthlink. Those are both like really well grounded in the Polish Slavic mythology. I just gave it way more context with the writer, with Karolina Stachyra, the one that was writing the quest with me. But that was the one that I really felt like it was this atrocious, really weird, strange creature. You know, it was partially like coming from horror, and then partially it was a bit funny. And then I felt that me really feel an amazing way actually to the Baron storyline. So that's the answer for me.
Gunter Odin for me. I think this is the ultimate villain for video games in general, and the whole execution of the character development those guys did. My tiny addition of the song of the Master of Mirrors, and this whole feeling of his presence and knowing that he is the ultimate force in this universe, and basically there's nothing that can stop him, yet Geralt still manages to find a way to at least draw things away. Makes the perfect combination for me, and with Ladies of the Wood being number 2.
Right. Yeah. Boris.
I guess it's something that you can romance. Boris, I can help you. It's a succubus.
Follow up.
Yeah, I'll go with the succubus. Jesus.
We can come back to you if
yeah,
you want.
Please do.
No.
I
don't know.
Go ahead.
I need to think about it. So first.
All right, you don't have to choose which one of your child is going to live. Tell us one.
But it's a difficult one, because, for example, when I'm playing our games, I'm always there for the sheer scale and the number of characters. So it's very hard for me to pick just one. I'm there for the story. I want to be immersed. I want to be surprised. So at a certain point, I don't know, it's serious, sometimes it's Triss, and sometimes it's a certain monster. So it really depends. Like the character which I really like, I mean, I really like Dandelion in the third, and I really like Priscilla and her song, and like, but this works for me at this given moment, and then I move on and I'm somewhere else, and I don't know, I'm in Skellige, and I'm fascinated with another character.
Right. All right. Good stuff.
It's too big of a game just to pick one.
Right, and there's so many different notes. Like we talked when I was in Warsaw about the elements of the Irish language, Gaelic, which is not very prominent at all outside of Ireland, but there's loads of that in Skellige. Like even the way people say Ceadmil and things reminds me of like Céad Míle Fáilte, which is hello basically in Irish. So there's so many like little notes in the game. There's such depth.
That's a cue that I think we took from Sapkowski. Sapkowski in his books. I mean, we love him because he peppered them with Proto-Slavic or general Slavic lore. But he draws really broadly. He draws from Norse mythology, he draws from Germanic mythology, he draws heavily from Arthurian legend. And yeah, we follow his example. You know?
Wonderful question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got time for one or two more, maybe three, depending on how these go. Sir, please. Your name and your question.
Hello, I'm Chris. One thing that impressed me about this series is that it gets localized into a lot of different languages, Russian and English, and of course Polish, which means you can
and Arabic and Chinese and
Japanese, Brazilian, Portuguese,
Turkish in the expansion pack as well.
Korean,
Turkish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm wondering, was that a business risk on your part, and like, how did you make it happen? Was that hard?
Okay, I'll maybe tell you first of all why we're doing that. Because we come from Poland, and it took me personally many years to convince foreign publishers when we were distributing games to localized games into Polish. And I was telling them, hey, there's 38 million Polish people, and at that time, not that many of them speak good English, so we need to localize it. Oh, the market is too small, it doesn't make sense. So yes, I think we are quite adamant. We take business risk because I believe that we should deliver the game in as many languages as possible, because our fans need to get fully immersed into the story. And as you see, like the discussion we're having about the detail, about the feeling of little tiny elements, sometimes one adjective. Like, I prefer to play Witcher in Polish because that's my mother tongue. And English, I have no problem, but sometimes I don't get the exact sense of this given word, and then I see that I'm missing something. So imagine, I don't know, a Japanese gamer or a Chinese gamer playing the game in English, and they're missing a huge part of it. So why wouldn't we deliver it in their mother tongue? And this actually surprised us a great deal, because we saw that the game is very universal, and like we can talk about, I don't know, Europe or North America or South America. Yeah, similar culture, similar roots. But then we go to China, and I talk to Chinese gamers or to Japanese gamers. It's like, wow, we love this element, we love that element. I think the language of games, it's universal as long as you take the time and effort to deliver, a perfect game in the local language. Then only you give your game a real chance.
It's a whole fascinating aspect of game design that I don't think I really appreciated until I went out and talked to I interviewed a bunch of your folks for your localization team. In the 7-part series we're putting out, one of them is literally only about localization and adaptation. And I was talking to you, Boris, about it. And one of the things that I didn't realize was that we talk about localization, you think about translating words, right? But your job as an adapter is literally not just to do that, but to take things and apply it so that the culture understands it. You're not just changing the words.
Well, it's never strictly translation. It's never strictly just I don't know, fully idiomatic rendering of what was there in the source. It's about enrichment. It's about taking a core meaning and rendering it, rewriting it in the target language. And we do this for all the languages, so that it makes sense and is rich and has the best possible entertainment value in that target language.
It's incredible. Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful question.
Yes, and thank you for the blooper reel.
Yes, sir. Lovely shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Is he on staff?
And my name is Bryce, and I'm one of more of the older gamers here, and I've seen a lot of changes in the industry in the last 20 years, and not all of it good, in regards to the microtransactions, the DLC costs, the parting out of all our content. And you say you're here for us, but we're here for you because you came up from very humble beginnings a long time ago, and you thought, how can we deliver value to the gamers? How can we make this worth paying for versus, like during an interview you said during the fall of the Communist Union you would distribute them, but then it's like, how do we make people pay for this? So you haven't forgotten about what it is to give us a game that we want to spend our hard-earned money for, and then also at the time giving us an experience that is very memorable to us. And for you not to forget that means a great deal to a lot of us gamers, where a lot of developers are just forgetting that. It's just a cash flow to them. And you remember that we're doing this because you're doing it for us because you love doing it and you love us to support you, but you support us. And I think I speak for me, and I think a lot of us here, a lot of us watching, thank you for not forgetting about us.
We really appreciate that you guys noticed that, and actually you vote with your wallets, and so yeah. Thank you for that. That's really important. But I just want to say we have one very simple rule at the company, and as long as I'm there, I'll make sure that we check all the key decisions by this rule. So whenever we discuss something, and it can be like the price of expansion or the release date or how we want to market something, like, you know, the business aspects of things, there is one simple rule. Can we explain why we have taken such decision in front of a room full of gamers? And it's very simple. And then we sort of question ourselves that, and if the answer is no, then we just don't do it. And that's as simple as that. Because if we can be straightforward and tell you, hey guys, the price is this and that, because that's that many hours we think that it's worth and we stand by it. That's very simple. And it's not like, hey, somebody paid us some money, so we had to, you know, sort of make it an exclusive on this or that platform, and then it gets all, you know, muddy and shady, and so, yeah, we like things simple, and that's who we are.
Awesome, fair play. Thank you, great question. Last question for today. Thank you so much to Geralt and Jennifer for getting our questions today. Sir, please, your name and your question.
Hi, my name's Gary. My question's actually for all of you. You guys make some of the best characters out there in video game history. I was wondering how you guys created Gunther Dim and his influence and where he just came from.
Oh wow! I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I know the answer honestly to this question. I mean, it came out from our story team, and the whole Hearts of Stone expansion is really like grounded up in a Polish literature a lot, and that's a funny thing, but. Just after Hearts of Stone came out, you know, I saw like Polish people writing a whole like thesis, you know, on Reddit and so on, explaining foreigners, you know, where it's based on and so on. And I felt like, wow, guys, like, why you didn't do it in school, you know? Because it felt like they were really trying to explain everybody like how this came from, you know, where it's built from. And I think it's just the reason it's just really well built into our culture, you know, like we looked into our roots and just came up with this. And then it's always like, it's never a decision of one person, you know, in the team to do something. So when the writer decides, okay, we want to lead the dialogue in that way, then there is a quest designer to question that. There is a cinematic artist to question that. And there is also people from QA to question that. And the thing is, it's very, very difficult to, you know, push something through that is stupid, basically, you know, that won't fit. That won't fit, and we basically we constantly check each other, right?
Okay. Sorry, we just
just prepping,
just chatting. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I see that. So we just constantly basically check each other if it's good, and I guess the rest just comes down to the talent of the team. Honestly, like I can't give you a better answer of this.
There's actually much more than that, because it's not only about, you know, taking the legend of Mr. Twardowski that Adam Mickiewicz worked around with in Pani Twardowska poem. So basically the original story was about the guy trying to fool out the devil, right? And the whole punchline was that we're gonna meet in Rome, and once we meet in Rome, I'm gonna take your soul. So Mr. Twardowski was never gonna actually go in Rome, but by accident, he met with the devil in a tavern called Rome. So the contract was fulfilled anyway, just like in The Witcher, right? We stand together on the moon. But apart from that, there's also so much work put in the subcontext level. So I remember this, it was quite huge in social media back in the day, once we showed that Gunther Odim is present as a second row, third row character in every single dialogue scene, right?
That's true.
So he may be a wedding guest, he may, you know, be a beggar on the street, he may be just some lonesome traveler, but he's still there somewhere, everywhere. And we did work around it with music as well, so we try to incorporate the Gunther Odim theme in every single tune you can listen in Hearts of Stone, and therefore create this dense, you know, devilish atmosphere that basically that guy knows and sees everything, and you're not gonna walk away from him or run away
Tiny
from
elements.
him.
I remember that you gave me a song by children.
Yeah, the
Asking
song by children,
so
for
in the
example,
middle
right?
of the fields, you have pack of children singing the song, and you're just riding on a horse, and you hear that, and you're just like, wow, it's creepy.
Yeah, there's one singing right there, actually, in the background. Okay, we're basically done. There's a couple of pieces of housekeeping, though, you're not going to want to miss out on. First of all, actually, round of applause for our panelists here. Thank you so much. If you want to learn more about The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt 2 and 1, if you allow me to do a quick plug, we flew out to Warsaw with our crowd-funded video game documentary company, myself and Jeremy, who's there with the camera. We shot a bunch of stuff. We did over 20 interviews with them and the folks at GOG as well. We're putting it all out. It's all free. If you want to go to youtube.com/noclipvideo, in a couple of weeks you'll be able to watch all of those. We're doing a 7-part series, basically a lot of what you've heard today and way, way more. There's a prize for you guys outside, some treats, but there's a quid pro quo involved. So first of all, what's outside waiting for people when they go outside the doors?
So again, anniversary without gifts wouldn't be an anniversary. We have these lovely T-shirts for each and every one of you. At a one-time only promotional price of $10. Joking. Got you there. And lovely pins as well as posters, so make sure to grab one on the way back. And once again, thank you very much for coming. If that's okay, we still would like to grab a photo with all of you. Just to show it back home.
Yes. Because we're going to do the world's biggest Witcher selfie, apparently. Yeah. So we're all going to turn around, or you're all going to turn around, and we have a photographer here. And also, you've got your own phone, because it's 2017. Everyone has a camera.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right, you guys.
So maybe first the professional ones.
Everyone stand up in the back. Come on up.
Oh, man.